All right, what's up, guys? Today I have a pretty interesting flip-flop for you in the trial of Derek Chauvin, or more appropriately, in the appeal for Derek Chauvin. He was, of course, found guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter earlier this year, and now he is appealing that conviction. But something weird just happened with his appeal, where Judge Peter Cahill, the same judge who presided over his trial court hearing, was petitioned by Derek Chauvin to proceed in forma pauperis. That means in the form of a pauper. He was granted that privilege, and then it was taken away the next day. This happened on Thursday and Friday of last week. Let's talk about it. I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a legal and political commentator. Wherever you're watching, go ahead, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little fire button, whatever you need to do, and make sure you share this video around so other people can see it, okay? Here we go. This is an article from Law and Crime, and it says, Minnesota trial court judge changes his mind, says Derek Chauvin isn't poor after all. But let's get into the meat of what's actually happening here. Convicted murderer Derek Chauvin apparently isn't poor after all, at least in the eyes of the law in Minnesota District Court. One day after deciding that Chauvin could proceed with court filings in forma pauperis, translated to mean in the form of a pauper, Judge Peter Cahill changed his mind and reversed his decision. Cahill is the same judge who presided over Chauvin's criminal trial in the death of George Floyd Jr. Defendants routinely file motions to proceed in forma pauperis to avoid paying the usual filing fees and other requisite costs when submitting documents to a court. On the afternoon of Thursday, September 23rd, in a document timestamped 4:06 p.m., Cahill determined that Chauvin was indeed entitled to be viewed as legally poor and that the much maligned ex-cop could proceed in forma pauperis. Now, Chauvin has some pretty good arguments for being poor. One, he's in prison. So he doesn't have any money coming in other than his nominal prison wages, which are not much. Not much money at all, and really not enough to fund a lawsuit. He's also proceeding pro se at the moment, which means he's representing himself. He does not have an attorney representing him. Eric Nelson's law firm, who represented him in the underlying trial, is not currently representing him, and Eric Nelson's law firm was paid by the Police Officers Association, and the police union, I believe. And once Chauvin was convicted, that payment stops. There is no more obligation for them to fund his appeal. He has to figure that out on his own. But I also have an idea of why Peter Cahill changed his mind legally, why he was legally changing his mind. I mean, he could have changed his mind for any reason. We kind of saw Cahill have some, in my opinion, maybe some of his personal opinions slip through the cracks a couple times in Chauvin's trial. You can make up your own mind on that. I don't know the man's brain. I've never talked to him or anything. So, you know, I don't know, but it just kind of seemed that way. But let's talk about, well, the article will show us where I think this maybe happened. All right. But in forma pauperis, just a quick explanation, is this legal distinction that says I have a right to have access to the court system. And you can do this in any type of case. Criminal cases, civil cases, it doesn't matter. You have a right to access the court system the same as everybody else. Now, if you cannot afford to pay the filing fees, then you can ask the court to proceed in a manner which doesn't have you pay those fees. And that's I guess a good thing. The taxpayers pay for it. These are typically not massive fees, but they are a lot when you don't have a lot of money, right? Like paying $400 or $500 to file a motion is pretty expensive. Paying maybe a couple $1,000s for court transcripts to be added to an appellate record could be really, really expensive if you don't make a lot of money. Now, in civil court, you know, you can get this same thing to happen. And the fee, it's the same thing. It's just the court fees. This does not give you an attorney. This is not a public defender. In fact, the public defender's office has denied Derek Chauvin his representation, which is kind of interesting. So we'll have to see if he ends up proceeding on this appeal with counsel or without. But right now he's going on his own. So, quote, the applicant shall not be required to pay any fees, costs, and security. That initial and since rubbished court document explained the applicant's claims are not frivolous and the applicant is financially unable to pay any fees and entitled to proceed in forma pauperis. So that was the initial decision of Peter Cahill. On the morning of Friday, September 24th, Cahill issued what is in essence a complete about-face. Based on the affidavit of the applicant, Derek Michael Chauvin, the authority of Minnesota Statute 563.01, the applicant is not found to be indigent and is not entitled to proceed in forma pauperis. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the stuff. You can check it out, Law and Crime. I'll have it linked down in the description below. But here is how he laid out his argument as summarized by by the website here. But I mean, they're taking this from the document. My name is Derek Michael Chauvin. I believe I have valid grounds for pursuing a court of appeals action. I was found guilty. I was sentenced to imprisonment for 270 months. Currently incarcerated at Minnesota Correctional Facility, Oak Park Heights. On 20th of September 2021, I filed a pro se notice of appeal with the Minnesota Appellate Court clerk. I mean, he filed it on his own. He's noticed the court that he's going to appeal, but he's filed it on his own. I'm currently unrepresented by legal counsel in connection with the appeal. On August 27th, I applied for a Minnesota appellate public defender to represent me. On September 14th, I was denied representation by the public defender. Typically, that's a means-based test. They say, do you have the money to afford your own attorney? If you do, we're not going to give you a public defender. If you don't, then you can get a public defender in that way. It says, I submitted the necessary documents to the Minnesota Supreme Court to review the public defender's denial of representation. So he's saying, he feels that he's indigent. He is not able to pay this. He is not able to pay for his own counsel. And therefore, he's appealing that to the Minnesota Supreme Court to review the processing of that application. And, it's kind of an interesting thing, right? Chauvin is a pariah, a social pariah in Minnesota, and the public defender's office could, in theory, have some personal animus towards him, and they may not want to represent him. And so they may just go, you can't do it. I don't know. I don't know the man's finances. So I couldn't tell you, what their decision actually was, but there's some plausibility to that outcome. He says, due to my current incarceration, I do not have sufficient means to retain private counsel for the appeal. I currently have no source income besides nominal prison wages, nor do I own any real property or vehicles. His wife got all those in the divorce, if I remember right. Which might be interesting because, that divorce could have been a sham to shield assets. We don't know. That's one of the allegations that's out there, is that that was kind of how the divorce was structured. But again, they're both under sort of tax watch here, and Chauvin's got some tax charges. I'm currently unmarried and have no dependents. My only assets are 2 retirement accounts. I would face a significant penalty for early access to these retirement funds. Yes, you would. A tax penalty. However, plus a 10% penalty plus, paying income tax. However, you have no income, right? Chauvin hasn't been working this year. He would not face that much of a penalty. And this, I think, is what's got him. If he withdraws the retirement accounts, he could go ahead and potentially, depending on the amount that's in the retirement accounts, I don't know. But I think this is why Peter Cahill denied him. He thought about it. And he's like, wait a minute, this guy's a cop for 20 years. He's got some sort of retirement funds built up. He's admitting to those retirement funds, and he's saying accessing them would be a big penalty. Well, sorry, buddy, but you have money there. We're not going to go ahead and fund your defense if you have money to pay for it. So he says, after the penalty for early access to retirement funds, the remaining account would be less than the current debt I owe, including IRS taxes and other personal debt. Well, I mean, he owes something like $400,000 in IRS taxes, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, maybe I'm overselling it, but it's a significant amount of money. And so again, I think this is the ultimate issue here, that why Peter Cahill looked back at this and changed his mind. Should he have changed his mind on his own motion? I don't know. Little weird to me. It's kind of strange. And, again, you can make up your mind about Peter Cahill. He may have made some decisions about the Chauvin case that are questionable. I've talked about it in other videos. I think it's interesting on appeal to see what issues Derek Chauvin will be bringing, and if he can have someone bring them competently. We'll have to wait and see. But certainly, one of the problems he's got here is that this isn't about paying a lawyer, right? This isn't about the public defender. That's a separate issue. This is about paying the filing fees. And while those filing fees may amount to a couple $1,000s over the course of the appeal, that's not like a fortune. That's not hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not a house worth of money like paying the lawyer would be, right? Paying a lawyer could be a house worth of money, and he should certainly have the public defender thing reviewed. I think that's wise. But, you know, if he's got $100,000 in his retirement accounts, he can pay the court fees. He can pay for his appeal, just the fee aspect of it. And that's going to be what's going through Peter Cahill's mind on this. And that is likely why Chauvin's request for IFP was rejected. So just wanted to bring that update. It's a little bit of a weird thing since the appeals are now going to go, and the appeals for Chauvin are probably going to go on for a couple years, as he appeals this and then goes to the Supreme Court and they appeal different aspects of it and all of that stuff. This is a long game for Chauvin. So seeing this was just a little bit of a strange thing to come home to. I wanted to share it with you guys and explain what's going on in case you saw anything about Chauvin's appeal and what's going on with the funding of it. So there you are, guys. Hope you enjoyed this, found it informative. Drop a comment down below and let me know. Talk to you next time. Peace. Peace.